The lights on my face made it hard to see the audience. Sweat itched down my neck, darkening the collar of my only suit. I gripped the wireless clicker with a hand that shook. So, as you can see, by rendering the city's traffic data as an interactive sculpture, I started, voice wobbling. Someone in the back coughed, my tongue skidded across the rough Spanish syllables. A sculpture. Oh God, someone hissed, too bored or contemptuous to keep quiet. Points of laughter scattered across the auditorium, sharp as broken glass. I paused, swallowing the burn. I think we're done here, gracias, said the moderator. Murmurs snowballed as I stepped from the stage. My slides, jagged neon towers, flows of data as light and wire, clicked uselessly behind me. I remember the embarrassment running so hot my vision blurred, watching my own dream dissolve in a circle of expensive shoes and frowns. They didn't see the city breathing in numbers, they saw foolishness, tech jargon, art for nobody. I pushed through double doors and hurried down a stairwell. I counted each thud of my dress shoes on concrete, grounding myself. At the bottom, I stopped in a shadowed corner beneath a flickering bulb, letting the sting fiercely bloom in my chest before collecting it, storing it. Madrid traffic rumbled above, oblivious. That night my uncle called. I picked up, trying not to sound shredded. Well, did they fund you? He asked too quickly. No, I said. He exhaled a gusty, almost satisfied sound. Javi, I told you, artists starve. But at least painters make things you can hang on a wall. What is a data artist? Why can't you be normal? The word normal had always pressed hard against me, as if meant to flatten. I can't make myself want something else, I mumbled. He snorted. Your father spent his life fixing real things, plumbing, electrical, not this nonsense. I could hear my cousins jeering in the background, their voices rising as Real Madrid scored on the TV. I hung up without explaining. Mom called the next day, gentler. She tried to wrap my wounds in platitudes, but the message was the same. Why can't you just let this go? But it wouldn't let me go. Madrid was a warm stone in the sun, buzzing with possibility, but I was frozen out. Back at my tiny apartment, I scrolled through rejection emails, museums, grants, tech launches, government agencies. Old classmates from university liked my social posts but never commented. My inbox burrowed with quiet pity. I made coffee, messed with the code for my visualization. The sculpture in my mind crackled with complexity, a living map, data lines pulsing, colors shifting with real-time information. I loved it more than I could explain. I found work scrubbing hex code for an insurance company, white cubicle walls closing in. Nights were for my project, stacking silver wire and soldering points, embedding tiny LEDs, feeding gigabytes of Madrid's traffic, air, and people's movement into a living model that would fit on a table. As months slipped into years, loneliness became taut and cold. People at work asked if I wanted a beer. I always made excuses. I sometimes shouted at my code as sun set in stripes across my little window. Sometimes I sat on the bed, clutching my chest, swallowed by silence. Still, wire by wire, script by script, solder burn by burn, I kept building. The year my mother fell ill, I cycled across town before dawn to fix her fuse box for free, replacing bad wires and mopping up after, the tang of ozone and bleach prickling my nose. She watched me silently from the threshold, her gaze softer than I could bear. You work so hard, she finally said. I have to finish something. Just once, I answered, unable to voice the need exactly, to make something they couldn't laugh away. I left her apartment with a Tupperware of croquettes and a hollow in my ribs. Months slid into another winter. Funding dried up after each polite rejection. My savings dwindled to scraps. One desperate night, as a metro train thudded beneath my floor, I admitted it out loud. Maybe I was a joke, even to myself. Then an email lit up. Dear Javier, we saw your work online. Let's talk. Monica, Museo Centro de Arte y Datos, Berlin. I stood still in my kitchen for a long time. My coffee went cold, heartbeat thumping in my throat. The row of dim LEDs on my prototype glowed, waiting. We spoke by video the next day. Monica's German-inflected Spanish was brisk and careful. You see the city as organism. I like that, she said. I want people to feel the data, see themselves in it, I replied, voice steadier than before. She nodded once. Berlin has a residency slot. Come, build it here. I slept little those first Berlin weeks, inhaled cold air and Turkish coffee, finding steadiness in the unfamiliar. Other weirdos clustered at the cafe. Quantum poets and sound hackers and kinetic sculptors, their strangeness a comfort. I shared a studio with a Polish artist who turned train timetables into music. Berlin pressed fingerprints of possibility on my arms. Months of soldering, coding, and refining passed. I worked until electric fuzz cramps ran up my forearms. I ironed out glitches, let the city's pulsing data pour into light. When the sculpture finally spun to life, it was a city in miniature, vivid towers shifting, threads of light writhing between them, current and history mapped in an organic dance. Opening night, 300 people pressed into the hall. Someone gasped as they watched their phone's location change the sculpture's color, feeling the city respond directly to their presence. Local news featured it, a collector commissioned a copy for Paris. Suddenly, investors responded. My mother, timid on video, saw the newspaper, her eyes filled. When the residency ended, I stayed in Berlin, airy studio and steady pay at last. I missed home with dull persistence but felt myself expand into the new, my family's disbelief ringing more quietly now. Cousins sent Facebook messages, "Hey, saw you on TV." A year later, Madrid's Modern Art Museum sent an invite. The city council, eager for tech-forward art, offered me the central round hall for La Ciudad Invisible, a full-scale living map fed by Madrid's own data streams. Flying home, my stomach lurched with hope and dread. I'd left as a punchline, still I needed them to see. The museum's round hall, once an ambulance garage, was all echo and white tile, history echoing in the floor's chips and scuffs. I spent weeks there with a small crew, unspooling wire, soldering, climbing scaffolding. Every time I ducked my head, I half expected to hear my uncle scoff, but I worked, hands firm, jaw set. I watched the city drift through the glass roof, buses crawling Gran Via, pigeons bursting from Bella's Arts, the coppery sky at sunset. Installation finished, I invited my family. My mother's voice trembled when she phoned, asking if everyone could come. "Your tios, primos, even your father," she said, pride shadowed by nerves. I nodded, heartbeat quick, picturing my uncle's skeptical eyebrows, my cousin's smirks. I invited my first boss, my old math teachers, old friends who'd slipped away. The day of the exhibit felt electric. The museum staff bustled, pressing museum flyers into hands lined up under the morning sun. I wore my best shirt and an awkward smile, nerves twisting the croquettes my mother had forced on me for breakfast. At noon, the doors opened. Madrid's dignitaries clustered in pressed suits, old schoolmates in jeans, tourists in neon backpacks, and finally my family, my mother first, walking with gentle steps, her hair newly washed. Behind her, my uncle, arms crossed, mouth in a line, my cousins, taller and broader than memory. Even my father, quiet and wary. The sculpture stood at the hall center, taller than a man. Madrid's arterial roads rose in bands of shining alloy, its neighborhoods clusters of light, its traffic flows trembling gold, red, blue. Visitors' phones activated glimmering threads, the city's pulse rendered alive. Screen projections showed air quality shifting moment to moment, footfalls on the Gran Via feeding shivers of green along the sculpture's spine. My uncle strode up, scanning the thing. "Looks expensive," he grunted. "All this for lights." A journalist to my right angled for a quote. I excused myself, hands steady though my breath came quick. Guides ferried groups around the work. Children pointed, delighted as the colors changed when they walked near, paths lighting up under their feet. Some adults pulled out their phones, watching as their own presence ripple across a digital map in real time. Suddenly, they were part of the city's story. Partway through the afternoon, a staff member led a group of city officials. I caught my uncle's eye, gesturing for him and my father to follow. The official spoke crisply, "This sculpture displays the invisible. Air people movement, even the mood of the city." She ran her pass over a reader. A line of blue ran down Castellana, culled from real-time data. Cameras flashed. One of my cousins, still skeptical, walked up and tapped his Metro card on a reader. The sculpture's central axis spun, a warm red glow blooming outward. The guide laughed, clapping him on the back. "What, did I break it?" my cousin joked, voice half proud, half mocking. The camera operator grinned. "No, you're part of it." "That's the idea." People peered closer, their faces warming with understanding. My uncle's brow furrowed as he watched more visitors interact, his grandkids lighting up an entire barrio with a tap, their laughter ringing against the tiled ceiling. My mother reached out, gently dragging her hand along a rail. The lights responded, shifting from green to gold, a slow evolving sunrise. A journalist beckoned me over. I spoke, hands unclenching at last. "The data isn't just for banks and city planners. It's us, our city. If you see it alive, maybe you understand your role in it. Maybe you love it more." I could see museum staff nodding, hearing it as hope instead of a joke. Later, towards closing, I found my uncle alone by the sculpture, hands in pockets. He stared at the spinning light, which shifted in rhythm with the traffic outside, invisible wires tying inside to out. He didn't hear me approach. Well, I asked quietly. He frowned. I didn't get it before now, he trailed off. You really did this. I nodded. He searched for words, tongue darting over his lips. I thought you'd waste your life chasing wind. But people look at them, they're moved. It means something, doesn't it? The tightness in my chest loosened, not entirely, but enough. My father joined us. He kept his eyes on the floor, hands knotted. Finally, he looked up. Your abuelo wanted something better for us. I didn't think it could look like this. He pressed a hand, rough and strong, to my shoulder, brief but so heavy I nearly sagged. We stood together, silent, watching Madrid's data pulse dance. Around us, families drifted out, last stragglers gazing at the sculpture, reluctant to leave. The city spun on outside, honking, hurried, alive. After the museum emptied, I found my mother waiting by the door. She took my hand. Her palm was small and dry, trembling almost imperceptibly. I always worried you would never be happy, she said, voice thin. I still worry, but I'm closer now, Mama, I replied, the ache easing. Outside, my cousins gathered by the steps. My uncle called out to a passing neighbor, pride finally audible in his voice. My father lingered at my side. The city's sunset glowed above the rooftops, tinging clouds orange gold. We walked towards the metro together. My family talked about lunch. My uncle asked how long the museum would keep the sculpture. My father asked if I could teach the neighbors' kids something about computers. These were small things, but they filled me with a warmth sharper than victory. On the train, my mother leaned her head on my shoulder. Exiting at her stop, she turned and smiled, the worry lines of old softer now. Riding on, alone, beneath Madrid's sleeping pulse, I felt fused to the city, soldered in place not by rejection but by all I'd brought back. Success wasn't applause or money. It was coming home to people changed, having proved the invisible was real after all.